Good evening and welcome to News Channel 8. I'm Jerome Aegean, and here's some of the top stories we have for you tonight. The governor speaks about keeping Crucian rum in the territory. Police commissioner have plans to deal with gang situation. And we have the 411 on all the Halloween parties. These stories and more are up next on News Channel 8. Our top story tonight, senators ratified on the agreement set down by Governor DeYoung that would keep Crucian virile in the Virgin Islands for at least another 30 years. News Channel 8's Lee Carl has that story.
I got a chance to speak to the governor one-on-one about the recent decision by the legislature regarding Crucian rum. And he had an upswing feeling here and even had a look at the crystal ball. Governor, I wanted to take the time to congratulate you, and I know you were smiling when you left the office yesterday after the vote. Get a reaction. I know you've made a statement, but what are your inner feelings about this and how it will help us?
Well, I think the way it really helps us is that what it does is that a couple things. It allows me in the short term to make sure that the government functions, because financially we now have a revenue stream that we've been able to borrow against. And quite frankly, that's what I had to do. With our revenues on the decline, particularly now, the revenue stream, the combination of what we're going to be getting from Crucian rum and Diageo will give us the ability to borrow to support operations, which is extremely important, because it's just like in the doors of government functioning and meeting the critical needs, but also we were able to borrow for capital projects. And those capital projects are what's going to go out there to a lot of our contractors and their workforce to be able to sort of prime the pump until the economy gets moving again for a lot of our resort projects and residential construction starts up again. We have some housing projects on the way. So really, yesterday for me was really, I'm glad to see the Senate went through its process. The fact that over a year ago, Senator Dow had put in legislation to make sure that the Crucian agreement would be considered allowed us, was a very critical component of it, and that's very important. So I'm very pleased to see what it went through. I'm glad for the support, because it was a one-day affair. And I think that really showed that the senators understand the importance of Crucian rum, the history of Crucian rum here, but also how important it is to our future. And I think the whole Crucian and Fortune brand team did a tremendous job yesterday. They articulated what their vision is for Crucian. Fortune introduced themselves to this community. They're going to be a part of us for the next 30 years, minimum 30 years. So it was very important that take place. So it's given us a chance now to really grow the Virgin Islands. I mean, the mere fact that we have a Fortune 500 company now in the Virgin Islands and Fortune brands speaks well for us. The fact we have a Diageo here speaks well for us. And all of that will give us a chance to be able to work, with them and also make sure jobs are available in the community.
Where then the average person watching Little Miss on Mr. Gotta, right? Somebody called the other day and said, I haven't got my checks, my refund checks yet.
Right.
And how long before we'll see the effects of this affecting our people?
Well, we're seeing it now. We're seeing it now because the mere fact is we have not had to lay off any government employees. We have not cut back any services. We've continued to operate. The lady that is looking for her refund check, it's coming. We've not stopped that. So it's just a matter of where she is in the queue, what process BIR is following. Clearly, between her and BIR will never give up any confidential information, but we've not stopped doing that. I understand how important it is to get the refund checks up, because that really is money that's owed by those individual taxpayers. So we've not stopped that. 2010 will be a different time. We'll look at the circumstances then, evaluate where we are, what we have to do. But right now, the strength of these agreements, working very closely with the senators and particularly with Senator Dow in terms of what he did, really gives us a chance to push this through.
If they had a crystal ball for 2010, what does it look like?
What it looks like, continued construction activity, that we get some finance available for a lot of the resort projects, that we begin to see an uptick in our economy, that we have some amount of stability that is in our economy taking place, and we begin to see those movements going forward. And I think that can happen as long as we continue to manage very tightly government affairs. and be very supportive of private sector activity. And I'm talking about, making sure that these construction projects that are coming out, that our small contractors can bid on them, making sure they're on the list of the Department of Labor for jobs, they get jobs, making sure that we're aggressive in spending the ARA funds, that we do the energy efficiency program. So there's a whole lot of things going on that we're continuing to manage to make sure that we lower the cost of electricity, construction jobs are available, tourism activities taking place. We have more flights coming into St. Croix and St. Thomas in the upcoming season. The commissioner is continuing to negotiate and talk to airlines to come in new. This week, she and Mr. Thomas and reps of the Port Authority, Ken Hobson, are down in St. Lucia at the FCCA conference to make sure that the Virgin Islands maintains its priority position with the cruise line. So, a lot is going on, and a lot that we're setting the foundation for the future, and I think people should feel good about that, recognizing it's still pretty shaky, but we're in a good path right now.
Governor, thanks.
Thank you
in
very
St.
much.
Thomas, Lee Carl for News Channel 8.
Well, we have good news. The health department has the H1N1 immunization shots. And more news is coming from the health department commissioner.
To suspend federal requirements and speed treatment to thousands of persons infected with H1N1. This would allow Secretary Ceballos to bypass federal rules so that health officials can respond more quickly to the outbreak, which has killed more than 1,000 people in the United States. Many of them are children. This declaration will cut through the red tape associated with various programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and the children insurance programs. I would like to emphasize, however, that the President's declaration is not related to any specific events or vaccine supply issues, but an effort to make sure that the U.S. government is better prepared to respond to the H1N1 pandemic. Because the H1N1 was initially declared a public health emergency back in April, we gained access to additional resources to include a shipment of Tamiflu and personal protective equipment from the national stockpile. We also received over $1 million in supplemental funding and personnel resources in the form of a CDC public health advisor and an epidemiologist assigned to the Virgin Islands to assist us in our H1N1 response. In the coming weeks, we will focus on vaccinating children within our public and private schools. As the H1N1 vaccines become more available, we will make them readily accessible to more people. It is important to note that the seasonal flu will not protect against the H1N1. We recommend that you take both the seasonal flu and the H1N1 vaccine. I would like to assure the public that the Department of Health will continue to stay one step ahead of this pandemic, and we will inform you of any and all new developments. Thank you. This has been your Health Commissioner, Julia